Welcome back. Well, today we are talking about 141 reasons why the Watchtower is a cult. And it's quite interesting once you get out and you start realizing the culty things that we had learned all those years. So there is a lot of culty stuff in the Watchtower. We had a program here just the other day on the 10 top cults in the U.S. Watchtower's number 2, LDS number 1. It's funny how a lot of groups now in the U.S. and North America are looking at Jehovah's Witnesses as a cult. Mormons too. Any of these organizations that worship men. Now, if you look at the men behind me, these are the men. And since the virus, they started broadcasting. These guys became famous all over the earth. 8.5 million people worship these 9 men. And what these 9 men, what comes out of their mouths is viewed as God's word. The Watchtower is viewed as God's word also within this religion, Jehovah's Witness. So I know all of this from being in it. I was one for 30 years. And I can vouch for the 141 rules, things that Jehovah's Witnesses cannot do. So we're going to cover through this quite fast. Jehovah's Witnesses, they love Jehovah, they say. That's really loving the Watchtower. That's what they mean. They obey all the Watchtower rules, right or wrong. And Jehovah's Witnesses might have doubts on their beliefs. I did when I was in it. And you'd question things, but you'd have to be very quiet. You'd have to be careful who you'd question things to. And lo and behold, once you start asking a few questions, you find out that you're in a bigger elders meeting or a couple of elders show up at your house, things like that. So nothing's private. They're watching you and they're looking for doubt in your questions. And then they're going to deal with you. So the following list of 141 rules was written for people who want to know what JWs know, what they believe. You'll never find this in any book. But as being a Jehovah's Witness, as you grow up in it, you live in it for years and years. You go to school in it. You have to go to school and you can't partake of anything. So we're going to go over some of the stuff that we all had to deal with at one time. Number 1, you can't belong to an organization or a club for socializing with non-believers. Got to put the religion first. Number 2, you can't have best friends and activity buddies who are not Jehovah's Witnesses. Can't have it. Number 3, association with people outside the organization when it is not necessary. Friendship with Jehovah. They link some articles here. Number 4, you cannot attend social functions sponsored by their employers unless it's required. Association with co-workers after business hours in a social setting is a no-no. Disagree within the organization rules and code of conduct? That's a no-no. Disagree with the organization's doctrines? Absolutely not. Contribute to the presidential campaign fund on their tax return? Nope, that's a political involvement. Join the armed forces? Absolutely not. You can't defend your country. No, you go to jail. If you're in a country where they want you to take military duty for 2 years, jail. Say the Pledge of Allegiance. Can't do that. Salute the flag? No way. Vote? No. Run for leadership in their organization? No, there's no such thing. JWs are appointed and invited by the narcissist before them. There's no voting. You can't vote elders out, anything like that. The governing body, those guys are self-appointed. They appoint each other. So you have narcissists appointing narcissists. If you're not a narcissist, you won't make the cut. It's quite simple. Run for leadership in any organization? Can't do it. Take a stand for a political issue? Nope. Take a stand for political or worldly issues? Nope. Campaign for political candidate? Hold political office? Discuss politicals? Be a union steward, shop steward? Actively being involved in a union strike? No, none of that. You can't have a gun for protection against other humans. You can't be a police officer if a gun's required. You can't wear military uniforms or clothing associated with war. You can't take yoga classes to practice or discipline in yoga. You can't smoke tobacco or cigars. And in fact, you cannot even work full-time selling tobacco or cigars. And if you work in a grocery store, a lot of JWs will transfer out of the tobacco counter. They don't want to do it because the governing body says so. That's why. That's all it is. Attend Alcoholics Anonymous. They have no program within for all the alcoholics in the organization. What do they tell them? They tell them to go home and pray and go out in service. That's what they tell them to do. You can't attend Alcoholics Anonymous. Why? Because maybe they say a prayer or something at the end. Donate blood. Can't do it. You can't have a blood transfusion. They want you to die. They want you to watch your kids die and stop your kids from having a blood transfusion if they need it to live. That's what they want. They want death over life. You can't read books, magazines, publications, literature from other religions. You can't buy anything from a church or buy anything at a church garage sale, donate items to a church, shop at the Salvation Army, work at the Salvation Army, work for another church, play competitive sports on a school team, play competitive sports professionally, run for class president, become a cheerleader, go to school prom or school dance, attend class reunions. You can't even be hypnotized to quit smoking or something like that. You cannot accept Jesus as your mediator. You cannot join the Boy Scouts. You cannot worship Jesus. You'll get disfellowshipped. You cannot join the Girl Guides, join YMCA, or serve on a jury duty, study psychology, philosophy, sociology, and viewpoints that might shake their faith. Can't do any of that stuff. We're only at 51. You cannot attend other churches. Attend non-denominational churches, attend non-Christian churches, get married in another church, date non-believers is discouraged, casual dating is discouraged, dating someone without the intent of getting married or having sex before marriage. You cannot even break an engagement. They don't like that. Separation or unscriptural divorce may result in disciplinary action. Marriage to a non-believer is not recommended. Be gay or lesbian, homosexuality is not acceptable. Throw rice at a wedding, get divorced unless the reason is adultery, remarry unless your ex commits fornication first, toast drinks, buy a raffle ticket, play bingo, gamble, sing a holiday song. You can't do any of it. You can't sing the national anthem. You can't celebrate Christmas, celebrate New Year's, Easter, Mother's Day, Father's Day, birthdays, Thanksgiving, Flags Day, Veterans Day, Independence Day, St. Patrick's Day, Valentine's Day, Halloween, Hanukkah, and you cannot accept holiday gifts. And we're only at 85. You cannot celebrate any holidays except the death of Jesus, partake in the bread and the wine that represents Christ unless they are part of the 144,000. And you can't partake. Even if you want to partake, you can't partake because they're going to look at you. The elders are going to look at you and they're going to judge you and they're going to say, that guy's not righteous enough. That's fake. He is not one of the anointed. So no one partakes. They pass these emblems around and no one partakes because that's the way it is. That's just the big boys. The guys behind me, these guys are the only guys behind me that can partake pretty much. There might be a few. More and more are partaking, but they're going to scrutinize you if you partake. So no one partakes. 88. You can't make holiday artwork for school. You cannot engage in holiday parties at school. This is hard on the kids. You can't take on leadership role in a school, if you're a kid. Porneia, it's a no-no. Do suggestive and immodest dancing in public places? No. You cannot attend a class, workshop, or seminar sponsored by another church. Attend social events or fundraisers sponsored by another church. Use a bad language, curse words is discouraged. Wear blue jeans or shorts or overly casual clothing at the Kingdom Hall. Even now with the new rules, you still can't do that. You can't wear pants at the Kingdom Hall if you're a woman. Well, now they changed it, and that just proves that it's a cult. So for 100 years you couldn't, and then all of a sudden one day this year, last month, they changed it. Women can wear pants. And guys can have beards. So if that's not a telltale sign that this is a cult, that for 100 years you couldn't wear pants and you couldn't wear a beard, but then all of a sudden one day you can, that's a telltale sign of a cult. To have people, those leaders, dictate, that's not in the Bible. None of this stuff's in the Bible. Wear revealing clothing or skirts that are too short, look down upon. Wear long hair or facial hair if you're a man. Now they changed that just the other day. Body piercings are discouraged. Tattoos are discouraged. State or imply the Watchtower is not run by Jehovah. That's really a bad thing, because everyone believes that the Watchtower is Jehovah's words. Having discussions and express Bible-based viewpoints that contradict the organization, you can't do that. Say anything negative about the organization, JWs must speak in agreement and be like-minded. You see, if you said anything negative about the governing body, you could get disfellowshipped. You'll get counseled. That's like talking down upon God. Now, consider other religious beliefs as valid and truthful. You can't. It's all part of Babylon the Great. It's all false religion. That's how you just have to accept that. Now, 106, acknowledge any prayer spoken by a non-believer as valid. Take another Jehovah's Witness to court. You can't do that. They have their own little rules. Jehovah's Witness can take you through the cleaners, and if they have 2 elders or 2 witnesses, you're done. You can't go to court. You can't bring outside evidence in. I tried that. This is bad rules, guys. It's not in the Bible. Wear or own a cross. A cross is a no-no. They demonize crosses. That's what Jesus died on, but they demonize it. Own any religious picture. You can't have a picture of Jesus on a cross or anything like that. You got to destroy all that when you become a Jehovah's Witness. Destroy all of your necklaces with crosses, anything like that. They want it all thrown out. You can only give allegiance to the 9 members of the governing body. They're on the broadcast all the time. You can watch them once a month. Everyone watches them. So you cannot own religious pictures, religious statues. You cannot engage in idolatry. Believe in miracles except those found in the Bible. You can't believe in ghosts. You cannot. Witchcraft's a no-no. Black magic's bad. White magic's bad. You can't consult with a psychic or become one. Study tarot cards or get readings or give readings. Study numerology or get readings. Dabble in ESP. You cannot use tools such as pendulums to access information from the spiritual realm. You cannot attempt to communicate with departed spirits. You cannot attend a seance. And number 124, you can't believe in good luck or say things like, good luck to you. You can't say that. Good fortune to you. It all doesn't sound right. Well, may God be with you. They don't even say that. Have a nice day. That's all they say. Believe or say anything superstitious? No way. You can't prophesy. You can't speak in tongues. You can't lay on hands. You can't energy heal, such as Reiki. You can't read a horoscope. You can't study astrology or the zodiac signs. And you cannot even believe in the Magi. You have to believe that the Magi who gave Jesus the 3 gifts, you have to believe that they were sent by the devil. There's nothing in the Bible that says that, but that's what they believe. They say this is what we believe because the Magi went to King Herod. You see, the Magi went to King Herod because they had to. They were a big group from another country. They had to go to the king. Nothing to do with the devil. In fact, the angel sent the Magi away, not to go back to Herod. But they believe that the Magi are from the devil. And therefore, you can't read horoscopes. You see, that's something to do with the Magi and studying of the stars. Study of astrology or zodiac signs, that's a no-no. Combat training, boxing, or martial arts. No, kids don't sign up for that. They don't even do that. Go to heaven unless they are part of the 144,000. Yep, there's only the 9 men behind me. They're all going to heaven apparently. And a bunch more on earth. A few, maybe 7, 8, 9,000. But that number, 144,000, let's be real, folks, it's been filled long ago. It's a farce. Rutherford brought this in to control, to give 2 levels to control you guys, to control us. I was controlled. You can't worship Jesus as God. I know JWs that got disfellowship for this. They're now ExJWs. Can't worship Jesus as God. You cannot idolize any celebrity or love or admire them to an excess. And women can't be elders. And women can't be ministerial servants or assist the elders. They can't see anything. Women are left in the dark. And divulge secret information to enemies and those not entitled to know. Yeah, there's a theocratic warfare. In fact, you can lie in court. And right now in Montana, we see Brumley and the Watchtower, they're in a tangled web because of all the lies they told the court in Montana. Be interested to see what happens. But they're just following their rules. Theocratic warfare, that's what they do. They lie. They won't divulge information. Number 139, greet or talk with a disfellowship person, with some exceptions. So an elder you can greet them now at the Kingdom Hall. They just changed that rule. For all those years since they brought disfellowshipping in since 1954, they were outcasts, thrown in the fiery furnace. But now you can kind of greet them at the Kingdom Hall, but they're still an outcast. You cannot associate with them. To this day, you can't associate with a disfellowship person unless they're living in your house. They're your kids. And lots of parents are throwing their kids out young because they get disfellowshipped. 141, you cannot keep secrets from the organization. Jehovah's Witnesses report friends and family members who are breaking the rules. So there's a lot of rules here, folks. If you break any of those rules, you could be reported if you're a Jehovah's Witness. 3 more things Jehovah's Witnesses can't do. Women cannot assume the role of a male and instruct the congregation. Women have to keep silent. 2, a woman should not pray in the presence of a baptized male, even if it's a young baptized 13-year-old, her son. That's how it is. Jehovah's Witnesses can't be part of this world. They must be separate from the world. And number 4, they can't believe anything former Jehovah's Witnesses say, even if it's factual. We're called apostates. We're worse than the devil. We're the same as the devil, and that's what they program everyone to believe. We've given that on lots of videos. There's lots of videos out on that. Number 5, unless they're an elder, Jehovah's Witnesses can't read this book, Shepherding the Flock. On this channel, we show it to everyone, to the world. We show how they handle CSA. We show how they handle all kinds of things. So if you have a question in the Elders book you want to know, send it in on this channel and we'll make a video on it. Criticism of the 141 rules. If you criticize any one of the rules we just mentioned, Jehovah's Witnesses may object and say they've gotten away with doing some of the things on the list. This is very true. The rules are not quite as important as loyalty to the organization. But here's what our experience is when we were Jehovah's Witnesses. If a Jehovah's Witness wants to be loved and accepted by their family and the only friends they are allowed to have, they instinctively know it's best to go above and beyond the minimum requirements of the Watchtower Society. And the last thing a Jehovah's Witness wants to do is to get into trouble with the organization or to be called in for judicial committee hearings. In an effort to stay outside of trouble, some Jehovah's Witnesses like to blend in and not be noticed. And others prefer to take the time or to take the limelight as a leader and doing far more than is required. So I did way too much when I was in. I pioneered for three years, and 3.5 years I pioneered for. And it was a lot of fun, but it was a way more than I should have done. I should have been spending all of that time with my family, my kids. They were growing up. I was out there pioneering, and they push. They push you to reach out. If you're not reaching out, Jehovah's not going to like you. You're not going to be Jehovah's friend. So reaching out means that you're trying to become an elder. You're trying to become a pioneer. You're trying to put in lots of hours and go out door to door in the ministry. It's really a programming that's designed to keep everyone busy in their minds, always working harder for the 9 men. The 9 men, because they want to expand their religion, right? And they're using people to do it, free labor. And we're going to talk about this on our one of our lives, mind control, and how they're using children to get their preaching work done, free labor. Now, the rules were compiled by former Jehovah's Witnesses who were happy to live by these rules when they were active in the congregation. And that being said, the rules can be very restrictive for young children who are singled out because they can't do many things fellow students do. And many adult JWs don't have a problem following the rules. And the ones that do are free to leave. However, leaving is very difficult. And some rules could be considered to make the list shorter, and some rules could be expanded to make the list longer. And the rules are not organized in order of importance. So why do some JWs say this list is incorrect and that 141 rules don't exist? Are the 141 rules correct? It's a good question. Okay, I tried to click on this link, but it didn't go anywhere. Okay, fear. Everyone is afraid of challenging the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses. Even some highly inactive Jehovah's Witnesses who rarely go to meetings, they're afraid to speak out against the organization. Secretly, they break the rules when no one is watching, but they will not publicly voice their viewpoints or disagree. Saying anything negative about their religion could result in disfellowshipping and being shunned. And if this were to happen, they would lose relationships with family and friends inside the organization. If caught, some things Jehovah's Witnesses can't do are very serious and can result in disfellowshipping or disassociation. Other things are looked down upon or judged negatively by individuals within the organization. And some things are a matter of conscience. Now, not every rule is given equal weight. In serious matters, there needs to be 2 or more witnesses to the wrongdoing, unless the accused admits to the guilt. And then there's conscience. For some items on the list, there are no formal rules that say you must not do these things. No one forbids them from being a cheerleader, buying Girl Scout cookies, reading literature from other religions, playing competitive sports, etc. Jehovah's Witnesses can technically do some of the things on the list, but they don't. Zealous JWs choose to follow stricter guidelines. They don't participate because most are overwhelmed by fear and guilt at the mere thought of displeasing Jehovah. So you see, this is a real deep down brainwashing. It's built right into the subconscious of people. And that's part of the mind control. Now, for example, Jehovah's Witnesses must not celebrate Halloween. Does this mean they can't give out candies when children come to their door? No. However, many Jehovah's Witnesses will not participate in giving out candies because to them it's part of the Halloween celebration. You see, we never got involved in any of that stuff. In fact, on Halloween night, we'd go bowling. We'd leave the house, lock it up, all dark, and we'd leave like we're on holidays. Christmas time, we would do that as well. Try to get out of the house. Christmas carolers could come to your house, right? You don't want to be caught up in that pagan stuff, right? So this is how Jehovah's Witnesses think. And all from following those 9 members of the governing body and their very high control religion. Now here's some questions. When deciding what's right and wrong, here are some questions Jehovah's Witnesses ask. How will believers and non-believers view my actions? And will I be exposed to people on a regular basis who don't share my beliefs and moral values? Will involvement in an activity mean missing meetings, Bible study, going door to door, etc.? And will an action in some way compromise my position on political neutrality? And will I be supporting the churches of Christendom and other false religions? So this is how a Jehovah's Witness mind works and reasons out things. Now, guilt trips and fear. Why do Jehovah's Witnesses feel guilty about doing so many things? It's because their God, Jehovah, remember, Jehovah equals Watchtower, so it's because their God, the Watchtower, basically their God, the Watchtower, these 9 men that are behind me, these guys, because of those 9 men, I'm not going to put this Jehovah God. This is because of the Watchtower. They have many attributes. Well, they don't. But this is how Jehovah's Witnesses feel guilty. They think about God, well, he's a God of love, but he's also a God of righteousness and judgment. So you see, Jehovah's Witnesses really push the Jehovah, and the Jehovah in the Old Testament is a very judgmental God. That was a God over the Israelite nations. But they have made that God their God. And they confuse it because then they talk in another place where they're likened to Jesus. The organization is just like Jesus. Well, Jesus was nothing like Jehovah. Jesus didn't kill people. Jesus loved people. Jesus healed people. Jesus believed in life over death. You see, the Jehovah's Witnesses believe in death over life. That's kind of how Jehovah was when it comes to blood and things like that. But Jesus wasn't like that. So this is interesting. If Jesus believed in breaking the law, breaking rules. He said if an ox or your child falls in the well on the Sabbath, are you going to break the rules? Well, of course you're going to break the rules because life over death. You see, that's how Jesus taught it. But why did Jehovah's Witnesses feel guilty? Because it's Jehovah God. Nothing to do with Jesus. And Jehovah God's strict in the Old Testament. So you see the Watchtower is very strict, and they follow it. And there's a lot of judgment. So obedience is required, and when angered, Jehovah is capable of wiping out entire nations in a fit of rage. And we've seen that in the Old Testament. Jehovah is a tribal God. He demands sacrifice and obedience to tribal rules and regulations. And for ancient tribes, groups' survival was far more important than the individual's rights and freedoms. And because strict rules are easy to break, worshippers of Jehovah are never certain of salvation. See Jehovah versus Jesus. Jesus brought with him a new, more accurate understanding in which individuals answer directly to God. They do not worship God by being faithful to a tribe, a religion, or a visible organization. Their personal relationship with God is symbolized by baptism. Followers of Jesus are not saved by keeping rules. Eternal life is a free gift. Christians are free from strict laws and rules and regulations. They don't have as much guilt or fear because they have a personal relationship with Jesus. And Christians are saved by God's grace. There's nothing they can do to earn salvation. The God of the Christians is kind, loving, humble, and gentle. And he is forgiving and understanding. And the Jehovah's Witnesses recognize the teachings of Jesus, but they choose to put Jehovah first. Even though Jesus came to do the will of his Father, there is evidence that Jehovah is a very different God. And of course, God has not changed. However, our understanding of God has evolved. There is only one Creator. And Jesus explained the true nature of God and disagreed with the Pharisees who focused on rules instead of God's love. Well, since Jehovah's Witnesses serve Jehovah, they must earn God's love just like the ancient Israelites did. There's guilt because whatever they do is for Jehovah. It may not be enough. And oftentimes, Jehovah's Witnesses believe they could have done more, and because they didn't, there is a worry that Jehovah may not save them. And what if they have angered Jehovah in some way that they are not aware of? And what if Jehovah punishes them for not doing enough in these last days before Armageddon? And what if they could have attended more meetings or spent more time going from door to door, etc.? Ironically, in their fear of displeasing Jehovah, the Apostle Paul, who was a self-proclaimed Christian Pharisee, Acts 23:6, and we all know that Paul was a self-proclaimed Christian Pharisee. You see, he was killing Jesus' followers. Then one day, he said he had a vision from Jesus, and he was blinded and brought to an end, and from then on, he started worshiping Jesus. So, yeah, that's exactly how it's put. And Jehovah's Witnesses have not fully accepted the teachings of Jesus. Example, see the apostate Jehovah's Witnesses. And it's important for Christians to follow Jesus because the Bible says all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to Jesus. So by enforcing strict rules and regulations, Jesus didn't teach critics to say they have run ahead of Jesus and their salvation may be in jeopardy. That's not what it is. Okay, new beliefs. The 141 rule listed on the page are based on our personal experiences when we were witnesses, the way we thought, and the way we observe fellow JWs on how things were right or wrong. And I agree with this list. It's pretty accurate. There's some things that could be conscience. Now, Jehovah's Witnesses believe that Jehovah's light gets brighter and brighter. That's why there's nothing wrong with changing beliefs as needed. You see, and that's something that the governing body has used for all these years at the light. There's new light, new light. And then they taught that Jehovah will give you the food at the proper time. That's how they taught it. They taught everyone to believe that, and everyone would go to the assemblies looking for new light, looking for new stuff. They were actually looking for changes, because the Watchtower, really what they're doing is making mistakes in the past and then correcting their mistakes, but they call it new light. And JWs look for the new light. And that's why there's nothing wrong with changing beliefs as needed. Old understandings of what God requires are quickly forgotten, and new doctrines are easily adopted as new truths from Jehovah. You see, when it's really from the Watchtower. And when talking about things they can't do or not allowed to do, there are gray areas. And some things they must not do, other things they shouldn't do, and some things are not recommended, and some things are a matter of conscience. Now, faithful JWs often feel guilty that they might be doing something to displease God. And some consult with the elders or write the society headquarters for guidance to make sure they haven't displeased Jehovah. So they're writing to the 9 men, basically their cohorts at Bethel, to tell them what they can and can't do. Is that not a sign of a cult? Come on, grown adults, you got to phone Bethel to figure out what kind of toilet paper you can use? Let's get real here. Double standards. Is it interesting that some people get disfellowship for the smallest infractions while others get away with a lot and no one ever says anything? I argued that, and I argued that in my family, and it was put over to they bring in another body of elders. And then you have 6 elders sitting there, and they all back each other up. It's all a bunch of BS. All a bunch of BS. It all depends on how much you're liked in your congregation, how much time you spend going door to door, and how loyal you are to the elders. That's what it's about. If you ask questions and you're going to stand up for what's right, you're not going to be popular. You're going to get judged harder. Your kids are going to get judged harder. You see, what happens is your kids will get disfellowshipped for the same infraction that someone else just gets a slap in the fingers, and it's a private reproof. That's what happens. So if you really want to understand truth about the JWs, what their belief is, search in the internet for the secret documents the elders only have. The recent 2010 document guides, this is on the elders book while we show it. Do Jehovah's Witnesses have the truth? We certainly love and respect the desire that they have to please. It's commendable. Well, of course they don't have the truth. I don't know what it's saying here. In addition, the Apostle John said, anyone who runs ahead and does not continue the teachings of Christ does not have God. If anyone comes to you and does not bring this teaching, do not take him into your house. Does this mean the Apostle John supported the doctrine for disfellowshipping? No, he did not. What is this scripture? So they cover all of this on here. Jehovah's rules can change. They have information from Wikipedia that talks about theocracy, mind control. So Jehovah's Witnesses have a unique language that they are proud of. It reinforces their belief that they are the only ones with the truth and living in a spiritual paradise. However, no one has told them the true purpose of their unique wordology. Words like in the truth, God's organization, paradise, earth, the doom system of things, etc., are repeated over and over again within the organization, in the literature, in conversations, in meetings, and governing body members. Powerful words keep Jehovah's Witnesses in a hypnotic state, afraid to question the authority of their religious leaders. And some JWs try to reclaim their freedom by leaving the organization. However, even then, most are afraid to say what they really want to say, especially if they have family and friends inside the church, inside the kingdom halls. And long after Jehovah's Witnesses leave their religion, they remain firmly attached to the beliefs of the Watchtower until they understand how mind control works. So that's important for all Jehovah's Witnesses coming out of the organization. Really stretch your mind, really work all those doctrines out of your mind. You got to overwrite them, you got to rewrite them, and it takes a lot of work. So some JWs try to reclaim their freedom by leaving, but they find that their mind is still attached to all those doctrines. They still believe it. So we have to get the doctrines out of our mind, or else we're going to be controlled, even after leaving. And I found in my case, I had many bouts of anger because of the cognitive dissonance, PTSD, post-traumatic stress from situations within there. If you can't resolve situations, it's like an open wound. It stays open your whole life. You can't resolve them. You see, when you leave, they shun you, disassociate you, disfellowship you. They make sure that you are not going to contact anyone within their little bubble. So you can't fix any of these old wounds. They stay open. And then they torment you by not allowing any of your family members to talk to you. And that's how they do it. That's mind control, folks. Obedience. Jehovah's Witnesses are required to speak in agreement and defend all doctrines, even when they have doubts. They are afraid to question Jehovah's wisdom as explained by the Watchtower because they are told they belong to Jehovah's organization. Thus, the good of the organization is thought to be far more important than individual rights, beliefs, and freedoms of speech. Independent thinking is discouraged because unity of belief is a requirement. Speaking out against the Church's doctrine is thought to be a dangerous path leading to apostasy and termination of one's membership in the Jehovah's Witness organization. A JW's salvation as a Christian is making it through Armageddon alive depending on their dedication and obedience to Jehovah's Spirit-guided organization, the Watchtower, the governing body. Equality, importance of women in the JW religion based on publications for elders. They talk about that. Halloween, restaurants, public places after dark on Halloween. They don't want to be home when children go trick-or-treating. Many of them leave their homes, turn out the lights, go out for the evening. That's what I was saying there. And Jehovah's Witnesses fear and obey their religious leaders based on the words of Jesus in Matthew 24:45-51. That's where it talks about this faithful and discreet slave, which they aren't. That's a parable. They've taken a parable and made it into a prophecy. And they're good at that. And it's believed that the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses is God's only channel of communication in the world today. That's what they believe. That's what Jehovah's Witnesses believe. So there you go, folks. There you have it. That's the 141 reasons why the Watchtower is a cult. A lot of information there. So I hope I helped you as an audience. If you have any questions, put them in the comments, and we'd be glad to help you. We'll be glad to make another video. Until next time, keep living your day with love. Bye for now.